By 2025, Samsung is capturing 31% of the market share in the US, snatching ground from Apple with its revolutionary foldable devices, while the iPhone falls to 49%. Is this the end of the Cupertino giant's reign? This battle is not just between two companies, but a technological war that has driven the sale of more than 5.4 billion units in the last decade and has set the pace for global innovation. In this episode of Business Saga, we'll explore everything from its origins, through lawsuits that rocked the industry, to the innovations of 2025 that will define the future of the market. In addition, we will extract key lessons for entrepreneurs on how to face rivalries and take advantage of disruptive trends. Get ready to discover the secrets behind this epic tech rivalry. Chapter 1: The Origins, from allies to enemy suppliers. To understand how this rivalry was formed, we must travel to the late 60s and early 70s. In 1969, in South Korea, a country that was still rebuilding after devastation, Samsung Electronics was born as a division of a conglomerate that we know today as Samsung Group. At the time, Korea was betting on accelerated industrialization, and Samsung aligned itself as an exporter of basic electronics, from televisions to radios. The leap was impressive. In less than 2 decades, Samsung positioned itself as a serious manufacturer of electronic components. Its strength was vertical integration and a capacity to mass produce that few firms could match. South Korea's economic backdrop helped Samsung become a symbol of national progress and technological development. On the other side of the Pacific, in 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak founded Apple in a garage in California. Its commitment was not only technology, but innovation that combines design, user experience, and its own software. Apple inaugurated a corporate culture obsessed with detail, aesthetics, and simplicity, concepts that would revolutionize the industry. Jobs' vision of creating beautiful, easy-to-use products would be a hallmark that would define years of success. The relationship between Samsung and Apple began as a symbiotic alliance. During the 2000s, Samsung was crucial for Apple in supplying essential components. To understand this, imagine that more than 70% of the OLED screens used in the first iPhones came from Samsung, which also made flash memory and chips. Apple managed to scale thanks to this reliable production capacity, while Samsung established a huge revenue stream with billions of dollars in exclusive contracts for Apple. This mutual dependence was key for both to grow. But this relationship was strained with the arrival of smartphones. In 2010, Samsung released the Galaxy S, a device that many saw as almost a replica of the iPhone, with rounded edges, similar icons, and an easy-touch interface. This marked the beginning of Samsung's transformation from a simple supplier to an aggressive rival, powered by Android, Google's open system that facilitated access to multiple manufacturers and varied prices. Samsung also leveraged its supply chain to cut costs and launch designs that reached all types of consumers. Most interestingly, tension grew within the industrial heartland itself. Samsung continued to supply components to Apple, but at the same time it was fighting to wrest the market from it. The following years sowed intense competition that redefined the rules of the game and put the entire business relationship under strain. To put it in perspective, while Apple sold millions of iPhones annually, Samsung was leveraging its global logistics chain to launch more accessible devices, conquering new segments and regions. This ally-rival duality created fiery and complex dynamics that are still in force. In addition, there are testimonies and historical quotes. Steve Jobs once commented that seeing Samsung copy his design was like a betrayal. For their part, Samsung executives acknowledged that the alliance with Apple was crucial for their technological development, and that learning from Apple forced them to improve quickly. Interestingly, this rivalry also cut across very different business cultures. Samsung's rigid hierarchy and Asian discipline versus Apple's Californian culture of direct, disruptive innovation. This influenced how they dealt with internal conflicts and tensions. In addition to technology, the race also included corporate culture and human resources, as Apple opted for small and agile teams, while Samsung operated with massive chains and highly standardized processes, a difference that influenced its pace of innovation and adaptability. Finally, this competition impacted the entire technological value chain, driving improvements in components, industrial design and software, also applied to other manufacturers who learned from both. Entrepreneurial lesson: strategic alliances can turn into fierce competition. Therefore, it is crucial to diversify suppliers and control critical assets to avoid being vulnerable to a partner that becomes a rival. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, and always maintain a solid strategy of independence. Chapter 2: The legal battles that changed everything. The conflict escalated from the markets to the judicial system. In 2011, Apple sued Samsung in the United States, accusing that the Galaxy infringed a series of patents on design and functionalities, such as pinch to zoom, bounce back, and the general design of the iPhone with its borders and grid of icons. Steve Jobs described this dispute as a thermonuclear war against Android, considering it a theft of innovation and intellectual effort. Samsung responded with lawsuits of its own, saying Apple was violating patents on crucial wireless technologies for 3G and mobile data. What followed was a veritable global legal war. More than 50 trials in 12 countries in Europe, Asia, Australia, and the Americas. Each country had its own legal specificities, which generated varied results, but all of them had a great media impact. One of the most emblematic cases occurred in 2012 in the United States, when a jury ruled in favor of Apple, awarding it damages of $1 billion, one of the highest sentences in the history of technological patents. After appeals and litigation that marked jurisprudence, this figure was reduced to $539 million in 2018. In 2016, the U.S. Supreme Court established a new interpretation for calculating damages for patent design infringement, limiting the penalty to specific components and not the total product, a ruling that benefited Samsung, setting a precedent for future disputes. This case set a legal precedent for the tech world in terms of how designs and functions are protected and valued, and is still studied in law and business schools. Beyond money, these battles drove heavy investment by both companies in innovation and patents. Samsung increased its portfolio, surpassing Apple in annual registrations, while Apple strengthened its closed ecosystem and legal defense strategies. The legal disputes not only defined who was right, but outraged consumers, affected brand image, and forced the industry to reconsider its intellectual property and competition strategies. A curious fact is that these battles even reached the Supreme Court, where judges discussed how to assess damages and losses generated by design infringements, a complex and little explored topic. A deeper analysis reveals that this confrontation indirectly incentivized startups and innovators to be more cautious and strategic in the development of technologies, promoting a balance between competition and legal protection. In addition, the battles extended their impact globally, affecting the perception of innovation in emerging markets, where consumers began to wonder about the originality and real value of the technology they consumed. The economic cost of these disputes was also enormous. Millions in legal fees, market losses, and resources diverted to litigation rather than innovation. Entrepreneurial lesson: protect your intellectual property from the beginning with patents, trademarks, and designs to defend yourself, and use these tools strategically in the market. Innovation must never be left defenseless. In addition, he understands that competition can be played on many levels, including legal and media. Chapter 3: Ecosystems at War: iOS versus Android. Rivalry is fought in software and digital ecosystems as well, because the device is only one part of the user experience. Apple created iOS, a closed, highly integrated platform that controls hardware, software, and services. This ecosystem offers security, privacy, and a seamless experience, albeit at a higher price. In 2025, iOS dominates the US with 57.97% of the market share and globally has 27.11%. Its App Store generates about $85 billion in annual revenue, driven by strict quality and monetization rules. The integration of services such as iCloud, Apple Music, and Apple Pay strengthens this network. Instead, Android is an open operating system used by 72.47% of the global market. Adapted and customized by Samsung with its One UI layer, which enables advanced multitasking and excellent integration with wearables like the Galaxy Watch. This opening allows Samsung to impact emerging markets with devices for all budgets, from budget devices to flagship. Google Play offers millions of apps, but with less control than the App Store. This battle is not only technical, but cultural. Apple retains users through a strong technological lock-in. If you use an iPhone, you probably also have MacBook, Apple Watch, or iPad, creating an interconnected network that is difficult to abandon. Samsung, along with allies such as Google and Microsoft, offers versatility and breadth, attracting users who are looking for options and price. In the last decade, Samsung has shipped approximately 3.1 billion devices compared to Apple's 2.3 billion. This global preference reflects not only diverse options, but also different strategies to build loyalty. Now, in 2025, with the massive integration of artificial intelligence, the differences are sharpening. Apple focuses on privacy, processing data primarily on the device, while Samsung uses the cloud for advanced features, creating differentiated offerings that appeal to different consumer profiles. The unique applications and services of each platform make a crucial difference for users and developers who must choose where to invest. Beyond the mobile market, this rivalry extends to other areas such as music streaming, digital payments, and even home automation, each creating ecosystems that keep the user within the same technological universe. This difference in ecosystems also affects how companies capture and analyze data from their users to personalize experiences and advertising, a field where privacy regulation plays an increasingly crucial role. In addition to this, both companies have developed platforms for developers, where Apple maintains an iron control, while Android allows greater freedom, although this also generates more security risks. This battle not only shows technological differences, but different corporate philosophies that affect user experience, security, innovation, and scalability. Entrepreneurial lesson: build an ecosystem of products or services that maximizes customer retention and long-term value. Decide whether to offer a closed and controlled environment or an open and flexible environment according to your objectives and market. Chapter 4: Innovations in 2025. Foldables, AI, and the tech revolution. The present is the domain of technological innovation that marks who leads. Samsung has taken the lead with foldable devices like the Galaxy Z Fold 7 and Z Flip 7, which offer true multitasking and portability, thanks to flexible displays and advanced material technologies. Although they represent only 1 to 2% of the global market, they gain share quickly. In the US, foldables helped Samsung grow an additional 8% in market share. By 2029, sales of book-type foldables are expected to reach 4 million, a still expanding niche with enormous potential. In addition, Samsung has integrated Galaxy AI with innovative features such as smart photo editing, real-time translation during calls, and personalized health monitoring, which will be available for free until the end of the year. These features integrate artificial intelligence to accelerate productivity and user experience. Apple responds strongly in software, especially in iOS 18 and its updates, which implement Apple Intelligence, developing tools for the creation of texts, automatic summaries, and smart notifications. They also launched Image Playground, which allows AI image generation, and expanded language and app support, paving the way for a possible foldable iPhone in 2026. These approaches emphasize the priority on premium experience and intuitive design. In the second quarter of 2025, Samsung shipped 58 million units, an increase of 7% compared to the previous year, while Apple sold 46.4 million, with a slight drop of 2%. This signals that Samsung capitalizes on innovation in flexible hardware and product diversity, while Apple maintains its advantage in premium software and experience. Apart from hardware and software, both companies are committed to cloud services, augmented reality, AR, and wearables, creating richer and more immersive ecosystems. An interesting aspect is the growing competition to lead the digital health market, where both integrate sensors and advanced software for continuous monitoring, a trend that is transforming personal care. Apple Health and Samsung Health are positioned not only as apps, but as key platforms for well-being. In innovation, it is also worth mentioning the promotion of sustainability. Both companies are working on greener devices, optimizing life cycles and recyclable materials to appeal to conscious consumers. Finally, these innovations also impact the global supply chain, from critical raw materials to logistics, highlighting that innovation requires highly efficient global coordination. Entrepreneurial lesson: in saturated markets, early adoption of emerging technologies like AI and flexible hardware can make the difference between growing or stagnating. Innovation is essential to not lose relevance. Chapter 5: Financial Comparison and Current Market Share. The numbers reflect this fierce rivalry and are a testament to the dynamism of both companies. Globally, Samsung leads with 19.7% of the market share against Apple's 15.7%. In the US, Apple dominates with 49%, but Samsung advances to 31%, driven by innovations and the popularity of foldables. Second quarter, Q2 2025 shipments: Samsung 58 million plus 7% year-on-year, Apple 46.4 million minus 2%. In the last decade, Samsung has accumulated 3.1 billion shipments, surpassing Apple's 2.3 billion. Regarding revenue, Apple reported $94 billion in the third quarter of fiscal year 2025 and more than $400 billion in trailing 12 months, with the iPhone accounting for almost half of the total. Samsung, on the other hand, recorded $74.6 billion KRW, or $55 billion, in Q2, a drop of 5.8% quarter-on-quarter, where the mobile division makes up 30%. Apple leads with a market capitalization of $3.426 billion, while Samsung is at $332.62 billion, reflecting the high margin versus volume strategy. On the stock market, Samsung is up 35% so far in 2025, and Apple also reports a 13% growth in iPhone sales, showing that both have robust financial foundations, but with different approaches. This data reveals that while Samsung is gaining ground globally in terms of volume and diversity, Apple is maximizing profits with premium pricing and integrated ecosystems. Multinationals, investors, analysts, and the media are closely following this duel that impacts prices, market strategies, and global competition. A key point is how both companies diversify their revenues. Apple with services that represent more than 20% of total revenues, and Samsung diversifying into home appliances, semiconductors, and 5G technology, which offers resilience to changes in the mobile market. In addition, financial analysis considers macroeconomic factors such as currency fluctuations, trade wars, and regulation, which affect pricing strategies and supply chains. Entrepreneurial lesson: evaluate whether you go for volume and scale model or for high and premium margins. Both are valid if the financial balance and sustainability are assured. It's not just about winning customers, it's about generating profitable and sustained value. Chapter 6: Lessons for Entrepreneurs and Conclusion. This saga leaves us with great lessons for any entrepreneur or businessman. Innovate or die. Samsung's bet on foldables and AI gave them an edge, while Apple focuses on software to maintain its premium appeal. Adapting early is key to not losing market. Build ecosystems. Apple retains customers with its technological lock-in. Samsung convinces with versatility and openness. Customer retention and long-term value are critical to sustainability. Protect your IP. Patents and innovation are fundamental tools to defend your niche and promote healthy competition. Defending your creations allows competition to be fair and based on merit. Adopt trends early. Ignoring emerging technologies, such as AI or flexible hardware, can quickly leave you behind. The future is for those who prepare today. Looking ahead, it is predicted that if foldables take off to massification, Samsung could overtake Apple in global share, but Apple will always fight back with innovation in software and smart services. In business, yesterday's allies can become today's and tomorrow's rivals. The key is to innovate, protect your market, and build real value for users and customers. Finally, this rivalry is not just a business duel, but an engine of change that has defined the technology of the 21st century. Understanding their lessons better prepares you to face the challenges in your venture or investment. More and more entrepreneurs are using these stories to inspire themselves, learn to navigate conflicts, and adapt their businesses to constant changes, demonstrating that great business sagas are also life lessons and business strategy. What is your opinion? Who do you think will win in 2026? Leave us a comment and don't forget to subscribe to Business Saga for more epic business stories and business strategies.